Today's webinar, Wood Structural Panels Designed to Resist Combined Shear and Uplift from Wind Loads. We'll look at several different codes and standards, primarily the 2021 IBC, 2021 IRC, 2021 Wind and Seismic Standard, and 2018 Wood Frame Construction Manual. Each of those documents will help us to navigate the topic for today. Hopefully you've seen the description and that's why you're here, so I won't spend any extra time reading through the description. I will, however, talk briefly about the learning objectives for today. We want to understand or recognize the requirements for wood structural panels designed to resist combined shear and uplift from wind. And when we use the term wood structural panel, we are talking about both oriented strand board, or OSB, and plywood. And so plywood that is at least 4 plies or greater will have design values that are interchangeable with oriented strand board, which is probably the most common wood structural panel used in construction today. We're going to look at both engineered and prescriptive provisions. And when I say prescriptive, that's going to be based on that wood frame construction manual document, but that is what we would call an engineered prescriptive solution, meaning there are calculations for the prescriptive tables that have an engineering basis. We'll also look at some of the detailing, the installation requirements, and the detailing, especially with blocking, that's needed to make this approach work. And so our outline, we'll look at the code acceptance based on the standards, codes and standards that I mentioned earlier. Look at some specific code provisions and enabling language for the standards. Then we'll dig into the 2021 Wind and Seismic Standard. Then we'll look at the 2018 Wood Frame Construction Manual provisions and wrap up our day with a detailed example showing how to implement this methodology. So that's our outline. As Maria mentioned, we'll be taking a couple of breaks along the way, and that'll give you time to type in any questions that you might have along the way. So I mentioned these 4 codes and standards already. The newest one out is the 2021 Wind and Seismic Standard. It's the official title is Special Design Provisions for Wind and Seismic, and I'll usually refer to that as the Wind and Seismic Standard. You may hear others refer to that as SPDWS, and so whatever you've heard it referred to, that's the document we'll be discussing or using as our basis today. You should also be aware that the previous addition to the Wind and Seismic Standard, the 2015 edition, also included these provisions that we'll be discussing today, and there were no major or substantial changes to these provisions in the 2021 Wind and Seismic Standard. I actually did this presentation, developed it a couple of years ago when I was with the American Wood Council before I came to ICC, and so we simply updated this program to incorporate the new 2021 codes and standards, but it's, I guess what we could say, backward compatible, if you will, to 2018 codes and to 2015 wind and seismic provisions as well. So while you're getting the latest and greatest provisions of the codes and standards, there is some backward compatibility there. So where is the wind and seismic standard referenced in the 2021 IBC? That's in section 2305, the wood chapter of the building code, for lateral design and construction. So as a referenced standard, the code gives the standard enforceability.